Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that, let's be honest, can cause a lot of anxiety for educators: copyright. Our goal here is pretty simple: to move you from fear to feeling confident, giving you the clear, practical know-how you need to use materials in your classroom legally and effectively.
This question, it pretty much sums it all up, right? You're on Google, you find that perfect picture for your presentation, maybe it's a photo of someone eating pizza for your Spanish lesson, and then that little voice in your head kicks in. Wait, can I actually use this? It's a feeling we've all had, and today we're going to get you some real answers.
And this quote, this is what we're aiming for today. See, copyright law isn't just a bunch of don'ts. It's also about your rights. So instead of just being followers worried about breaking the rules, we want you to become leaders, people who really understand how to use these tools the right way. So before we dive into all the nitty-gritty details, let's just start with the big picture. Here are the most important things you need to know, the key takeaways that'll give you a framework for everything else we're about to cover.
Okay, first things first. Copyright law is not some giant brick wall designed to stop you. Think of it more like a balancing act. It's about protecting creators for sure, but it's also about serving the public good, and guess what? Education is a huge part of that. This means you have some really powerful rights, but, and this is a big one, you gotta use them responsibly. To navigate all this, think of it like you've got a legal toolkit with three main tools. First, you have the powerful and, really flexible idea of fair use. Second, there are specific, crystal-clear exemptions that were written into the law just for teachers. And third, there's a whole world of stuff out there that's already been pre-approved for you to use through open licenses. We're going to explore all three.
Okay, so to get how you can use stuff, we first have to talk about the default setting. What does it actually mean when something is copyrighted in the first place?
You see that little C in a circle? At its heart, that symbol just means there's a bundle of legal protections wrapped around an original creative work. It's the baseline, the starting point for everything from a novel or a movie to a photograph or even a piece of software code.
Now, I want you to really focus on that word, exclusive. It's super important here. By default, the person who created the work holds the only right to say who gets to copy it, who gets to hand it out, or who gets to adapt it, like turning a book into a movie. Our whole job here is to figure out the legal pathways that let us work within those exclusive rights. So you can kind of picture the whole world of creative stuff on a spectrum. On one end, you've got copyright, where it says all rights reserved. But on the complete opposite end, you have the public domain. Think of it as this amazing, huge library of works where the copyright either ran out or never existed in the first place, making them totally free for anyone to use for anything, no questions asked.
All right, let's talk about the big one, the most powerful, most flexible, and yeah, probably the most misunderstood tool you've got in your kit. It's time to demystify fair use.
Now, this is absolutely key. Fair use, it isn't some shady loophole or an excuse to get away with something. It is your right. It's a core part of the whole copyright deal, making sure the law helps create new culture and learning, not just lock it all away. It basically says that sometimes the benefit to all of us outweighs the creator's exclusive control.
So, how do we figure out if something is fair? Well, courts use a balancing test with these 4 factors. But listen, this isn't a simple checklist where you tick the boxes and get an answer. It's more like a balancing act. They look at why you're using it, what the original work is, how much of it you used, and if your use hurts the creator's ability to sell their own work. Now, let's zoom in on the most important one for educators: your purpose.
This quote gets right to the heart of that first and most critical factor. And that brings us to the magic word: transformative. Are you just copying the original work to use it for its original purpose, or are you using it in a brand new way? Maybe for criticism, or for commentary, or for a lesson. Adding new meaning, a new context, that is the single strongest argument you can make for fair use.
So, fair use is this big, flexible idea. But on top of that, Congress also gave educators some, let's say, more black and white rules for using copyrighted materials in different kinds of classrooms.
And here's where the law draws a really bright line. In a traditional, physical, face-to-face classroom, you have really broad permissions to show or perform a work. But, and this is a big one, the second you move that lesson online, a totally different and, frankly, more complicated set of rules kicks in. It's called the Teach Act.
Yeah, the Teach Act, it comes with a pretty strict checklist you have to follow. To even qualify, your school has to be an accredited nonprofit, and it has to have a copyright policy.
But most importantly, the material has to be a real integral part of the class, and you have to use technology to lock down access so that only the students in that specific course can see it.
Okay, so what if you're thinking, wow, fair use sounds kind of gray and the Teach Act has a lot of rules? Well, good news, there's a third path, a whole universe of content where the creators have actually given you permission right from the start.
And that's where Creative Commons, or CC, comes into the picture. It's a nonprofit that came up with these super simple standard licenses that creators can just stamp on their work. When you see a CC license, it's like a green light. It tells you exactly what you can do with the work, how you can use it, share it, even change it, without ever having to ask for permission.
So, how do they work? They're basically built from a few simple parts. BY always means you have to give credit, attribution, to the original creator. SA stands for share alike, which means if you make something new with it, you have to share your new creation under the same license. NC means non-commercial, so no using it to make money. And ND means no derivatives, which means you can share it, but you can't change it. Just by looking for these little symbols, you can find tons of great content for your classes.
Okay, so we've gone through the theory. Now let's get real and talk about what this actually looks like in your classroom. This is where a lot of that fear and confusion comes from these myths and bits of misinformation that have been floating around for years. It is time to bust them.
And just to be clear, are the stakes here real? You bet. This number should get your attention. A school district had to pay a $7.8 million settlement because a principal and some teachers were systematically making illegal copies of study guides. So yeah, this isn't just abstract legal theory. The consequences for getting this wrong can be huge.
All right, it is time for some major myth-busting. First, it's for education, so it's okay. Nope. Using something for education definitely helps your case for fair use, but it is not a magic wand. You still have to weigh those 4 factors. Second, the 10% rule, or the 30-second rule. This is one of the biggest myths out there. There are no magic numbers. The rule is, use only what you need for your lesson. And finally, as long as I give credit, I'm good. This is crucial. Giving credit is the right thing to do, it's good academic practice, but it does not magically give you the legal right to use the work.
So, after all of that, what should you actually do? Here are the best practices, boiled down. 1. Always have a clear teaching purpose for why you're using something. 2. Be picky. Don't copy a whole chapter if you only need a paragraph. 3. Be a good digital citizen and give credit. 4. Whenever you can, try to find stuff with a Creative Commons license first. And 5, especially for online content, always lock it down so only your students can get to it.
So let's bring it all the way back to where we started. That fear of copyright, it shouldn't be holding you and your students back. By understanding your toolkit, fair use, the teaching exemptions, and open licenses, you can stop being a follower and start being a leader. You can make confident, smart decisions that not only make your classes better, but also show your students what it means to be a good citizen online. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about copyright and how it works with education.